Now is the time to introduce our two amazing guest speakers. They are both from Holt International, Derry Breeden and Paul Kim.
Hello, hello, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Great. Well, it's definitely good to be here. So thanks for having us. My name's Derry, and I'm the Donor Relations Director for Holt International. And just a little background on Holt International. We are a Christian organization committed to a world where every child has a loving and secure home. We have three main pillars of operation. One, we help strengthen vulnerable families. Two, we care for orphans. And three, we find adoptive families for kids. Our main goal is to bring light to the darkest situations. So around the world, we estimate that more than 140 million families have lost one parent or both parents, and millions of other children are at serious risk of losing their families. These kids have survived incredible poverty, hardship, loss, exploitation, and neglect. They live in the world's toughest places. And this is where all of us come together. Holt International teams up with individuals like each person here, and together we work to fulfill our mission. And first and foremost is keeping families together. So we help communities in crisis tackle the causes of poverty and injustice. By preventing child abandonment, we keep families together. And around the world, thousands of children are growing up without the care and support of a family, not because they don't have a family and not because their families don't love them, but the reasons that children are abandoned vary. But the primary reasons that we've encountered are poverty, illness, war, political instability, and the enduring stigma of unwed motherhood. And the list goes on. But that being said, we believe that neither poverty nor illness nor stigma are just reasons for children to grow apart from their families. And that's why our first priority is always to strengthen and preserve struggling families. Holt donors, they provide the tools and the resources, and families provide the drive and the hard work. And together we build a solid foundation, keep people together in an environment where children can grow and thrive. So our second pillar is to care for homeless children. Holt partners with local experts in each of the countries that we work in, and we care for kids who are living without their families. Some children enter our care just temporarily and are able to reunite with their families. And other children only have a chance at a family through in-country or international adoption. But no matter why or where or how long they wait, we provide the highest level of care for every child who has been orphaned, abandoned, or separated from their family. And around the world, we work alongside with local networks of people on the ground, child welfare experts, Holt-trained foster families, and partnering care centers to provide medical, nutritional, educational, and psychological services. Each of these services are tailored to fit each child's individual needs for the specific cause of that child's situation. Our third pillar is to find adoptive families, and we find support for domestic and international adoption. Holt was the pioneer and the original founder of international adoption 60 years ago, and we're still the number one leader in international adoption today. We unite children and families who really need them, and we stand by the adoptees their entire lives. We provide world-class care to children who are waiting to come home, as well as resources, education tools, and support for families and adult adoptees. Our post-adoption services are second to none, from adoptee camps to family support groups, counseling, adoption-specific nutrition advice, to birth families, citizen questions, homeland tours. Holt has a very well-rounded holistic approach. So one of the things that Holt does is incredible projects, and we look at the situation in each country to find out what those needs for that country and that population are. And we do everything from capital construction projects like building schools. We've built the Redstone School in Mongolia to educate children who live in the country's largest garbage dump. We've built the Jesus Mina School for the Deaf in Ethiopia, which is the first and still only school for deaf children to receive deaf education with their families. We build hospitals, infant surgical centers, and you name it. And so the projects are very diverse. But one of the projects that is definitely part of the Holt original stabilization project was the single families or the single mothers program. And Paul Kim, his father, David Kim, was one of the original Holt founders. And Paul today helps organize and bring children that were adopted to homeland tours. And one of the things that people get to see when they're on this tour is the single mothers program. And so I'm going to let Paul talk specifically about this program. And it is really cool. I hope you guys enjoy.
Thank you, Derry. One of the things that's always important to remember is that the work that Holt does is always focused on one main mission, and that is the premise that every child deserves to grow up in a family, regardless of whether that's in their birth family, with an adoptive family in their country of origin, or finally with a family through international adoption. But a child should always grow up in a family. It doesn't matter how good the institution is. You can never be as good as having someone there loving and caring just for you. Now, in Korea, just as it is in so many Asian countries, all of us understand that as part of Asian culture, it's a communal culture, meaning it's not about the individual, but it's so much about the family and the extended family and the community that you're a part of. For these women who, through whatever circumstance, have become a single parent, so many of them become ostracized and separated from their families, from their communities. And as Asians, we understand that if you are no longer connected with your family, your extended family, or your community, it's almost as if you don't exist. And raising a child under those circumstances is sometimes just an insurmountable challenge. In 2004, Holt began a series of maternity shelters in Korea with the intent that children should have the best possible care even prior to birth. However, one of the things that came from that maternity shelter program was a recognition that there are so many of the women that, given the support and opportunity, would actually choose to parent their child. When we started the shelter program in 2004, 90% of the women who were coming into shelter would make the decision to relinquish their child so that their child would have a better opportunity in life through adoption. However, as the program grew, and as we started providing greater and greater services and support to the women who were coming into shelter, that changed. And by 2012, 70% of the women who were coming into shelter were choosing to parent their children. So in 2012, the shelter program changed from being a maternity shelter program to a mother and child shelter program, recognizing that being able to keep these families together and empowering these families really provided an amazing opportunity for a healthy and loving and successful life. One of the things that the shelter program does is it recognizes the fact that if someone is parenting and parenting knowledge doesn't come automatically. If you have a child and you're still connected with your family and such, if you have questions about raising that child and how to do certain things, it's easy. You just call your mom and dad and ask them questions, things like that. But for these women, just basic knowledge about how to successfully be a parent was something that they didn't have available. The women who come into shelter range in age from early teens all the way up to individuals in their 30s and 40s. But all of them have a common need and a common desire and a common love for their child. While the women come into shelter, they're provided housing, they're provided all food and nutritional services, all the medical care and services, counseling, childcare education, and other opportunities in which they can go ahead and improve their situation and their lives. It's really, really amazing because what they do is, just to tell you some of the programs that are offered. One of the things that we recognize is that for a mom to be able to successfully provide her child with love and acceptance is that she must learn to love and accept herself. Through the counseling services that they have, they provide support to the women to be able to come and to find a peace in their hearts and to find acceptance and to be able to love themselves. In regards to the time while they're in shelter, it shouldn't just be a time where they're just provided everything, but an opportunity to provide their children and their lives a better future. So during their stay there, we also provide full vocational training services so that women who wish can get training in terms of different culinary skills. In Asia, coffee shops and things like that are big, so that they have programs in terms of becoming like a barista. They have in terms of health and beauty services and things like that, cosmetology, etc. But one of the most exciting things that we offer is support for education. And all of you recognize that in Asia, education is everything. And you have to understand that some of these young women have gone their entire lives without anyone being able to be, without hearing from anyone, you can do this. You can actually go and you can be educated and have a better future. And so some of them come into care not having completed their high school education. And so what the program provides is full support for them to go ahead and study and to get their GED or their high school graduate equivalency. What's amazing to know is that the shelters are actually certified and registered with the Korean government as educational institutions, so that they provide the ability for the women to attend special study academies, to get educational support, while at the same time the shelter provides full daycare services for their children so that they can really concentrate on their study, but also know in their hearts that their children are being well cared for during this time. What's really cool is that, for so many of them, college was not even something that they would dream of. But, all it took was one person to kind of like lead the way. And I still remember there was this young woman who came into shelter, and she was just so bright and smart. And, she was determined that she was going to make a better life for her and her son. And so what she did was she went ahead and got her equivalency. But then at that point, she took the extra classes and studied for the college entrance exam. And in Korea, I don't know if everyone knows this, but everyone takes a national exam each year. All the high school seniors take a national exam, and that exam score not only determines what major you qualify for, but what school that you can enter into. And this is an amazingly difficult and challenging and stressful test. But she was determined to do it, and she is now studying to be a social worker. She got into college. She's studying to be a social worker, but she wants to be able to give back and to provide services for other women who are in similar circumstances. And it was amazing. After she got into college, other women who were in shelter looked at her and said, I can do this too. And more of them decided that they wanted to go ahead, concentrate on their studies, took the entrance exam, and now so many of the women are now entering into college and studying. And what this enables them to do is to know independence, to know self-worth, and to be able to provide for their children not only an opportunity in life, but example that their children can look up to and say, I can follow and do this just as my parent did. It is such an amazing program to see that you're taking individuals who before, even just 10 years ago, you would have been looking at coming out of shelter and perhaps relinquishing their child for adoption, or if they were parenting their child, working at a low-paying entry-level job. But now you have individuals who are going to become successful and active parts of society and giving their children that opportunity in life. Holt is known as the largest intercountry adoption agency in the world, but there's so much more that we do. And it's all based on that premise that each child needs to grow up in a family. And for every child, whether it's in their birth family or a domestic adoptive family or through a family that is adopting them from overseas, that each child deserves to have the best possible opportunity in life. And that is what the Single Mother Shelter Program offers to these children. It was very telling. We, as Gary mentioned, we have donor groups and also adoptees and adoptive families who will visit these shelters. And one of the things that always happens during these visits is that someone in our group will come to me and say, that was me, or that was my sister, or that was a relative of mine, or a friend of mine that I knew that was in this situation in the United States. And after seeing the program there, they said, I really wish we had something like that for my sister, or for me, or my friend, or for this person I know. Thank you so much for considering supporting this program. By providing the support, I can tell you without any hesitation at all that you will be making an amazing difference in the life of not only a child, but for a mom and for a family. Thank you.
Thank you both so much for talking about Holt. I know with online community service events, it's a little hard to see the impact, the direct impact the kind of things you're doing have. That's why I wanted to share my story a little bit. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually adopted from South Korea. Holt was my adoption. Holt was my adoption agency, and the story about the stigmas is completely true. It's a completely mirror image of what happened to me and my birth mother. When she found out she was pregnant, my birth father just immediately left. After she gave birth, she spent the next 2 months alone trying to raise me, not being able to find stable housing, not being able to get a job because of this stigma. And because of these programs, and when she realized she couldn't raise me by herself, she knew she could turn to an organization like Holt to entrust her child to. Because of all these special programs, Holt just really ensures so many people do have a caring home in life. Because I don't think I could have been paired up with another better family at home, and I know my birth mother somewhere in Korea is relieved that I have found such a good place.